Welcome, everyone. Welcome to this special film event with Dr. Jude Currivan from WholeWorld-View. Jude, welcome. It's good to have you here.
Thank you, Jessica. Again, thanks everyone. I'm so delighted we could do this.
So we have a special watch party this evening with Jude and also Professor Les Lancaster from the Alef Trust. My own name is Jessica Bockler. I'm one of the co-founding directors of the Alef Trust. And together with Jude and Les, and actually also these three young people here in the background, will be watching the film and will be exploring what this film means to us. But before we get going, I thought it makes sense to introduce the film a little bit, and also Jude and Les, who have been, well, Les as co-producer of the film, and Jude really as the main woman behind the scenes, writing the film, narrating it, and getting it off the ground. So it's a pleasure to welcome Jude. Jude is a cosmologist, a planetary healer, a futurist, an author of a number of books. She was also a very senior businesswoman in the UK and has degrees in physics from Oxford University, specializing in quantum physics and cosmology, and a PhD in anthropological archaeology from the University of Reading. So Jude is a woman extraordinaire and has put together a film which I feel in many ways, Jude, reflects your own journey, exploring the nature of the universe, the nature of our reality, and wanting to share the story of this reality, this other view of the nature of our universe with the world. And that is a wonderful thing. And so Jude was joined by Professor Les Lancaster, who is also co-founding director of the Alef Trust, as co-producer. And the Alef Trust was so very pleased to be premiering this film in Oxford earlier this year, where we hosted the 24th Eurotask conference. That was the conference of the Global Transpersonal Network. And here we are with a special viewing party just for you. This evening UK time, and just to say a little bit about Les as well, because Les and Jude have been in dialogue and exploring themes around this film, and Les himself has been an instrumental figure in consciousness studies and in transpersonal psychology in the UK and also internationally. He served as chair of the transpersonal psychology section of the British Psychological Society, but also president of the International Transpersonal Association. He's been around. So together, Jude and Les set off on this adventure. Jude was really spearheading it. So we will be in a moment watching this wonderful film. And then we're joined, I mentioned them before, but let me introduce them to you. We've got Lillian and Abby and Amelia, who were part of one of the original focus groups as this film was created. And early on, they gave their opinions about the film and helped shape the narrative. So with all that said, Jude, why don't I hand over to you and for more introductory words, and then we can take it away.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jessica. Yes, the film. I never intended to be a filmmaker, but the film essentially called itself into being, and it feels that it's done so in a very timely way. As Jessica said, my journey has been a lifelong journey of curiosity of the nature of reality. Many threads and strands to that. But about 16 years ago, I became aware that enough evidence was building up that could potentially overturn the current paradigm of materialism and separation of our worldview. And I started then to look at the possibility of writing books on the subject. But I really wanted to focus on what evidence was coming forward, and it has been doing so at all scales of existence across many different fields of research. And that has led to a number of books. It led to me co-founding something called WholeWorld-View in 2017. And that led us to really serving the understanding, the experience, and the embodying of what I refer to as unitive awareness. In other words, that we literally are inseparable from each other and the wider world, and that mind and consciousness aren't something we have, as the old paradigm would suggest, but what we and the whole world are. So this emergent understanding is converging with universal wisdom teachings, with indigenous wisdom teachings. And latterly, it's been able to come to a point where such a film can be made, really grounded on that evidence. And so I won't say much more, but the intention really is to share this as widely as possible, because our worldview drives our behaviors, and we've had a worldview that has driven some pretty dysfunctional behaviors. And we're now waking up to remember a deeper essence of who we are and who we can become. So the time is now. This is where we're at. This is who we are at. The film is free of charge to watch, to share, to use in any way people want to. It's available in 17 languages, subtitled from Arabic to Ukrainian. We really want it to be an invitation to go on this journey of exploration of a world where we have innate meaning and purpose. And as these young ladies told us, they now know they belong. So this is a message of belonging. So I could talk more about it later, but I'd suggest share the film now. And so I think I can share my screen. The film itself is about just over 14 minutes. And today I really invite us to also look at the rolling credits, which are all the people who've helped bring the film to this point. Just to say, it is freely available on YouTube. As I've said, we can put the link to that in the chat. Perhaps, Fran, you could do that, please. And also the link to the WholeWorld-View website, where we have a whole section on the film with an educational wraparound, such as a glossary of terms, some experiential invitations. I'm delighted that another of our core team members, in fact, two of our core team members at WholeWorld-View, Chuck Peters and my husband Tony, are also joining us today. So here we go.
Everything breathes. People breathe. Plants breathe. Planets breathe. Our whole universe breathes. Our universe began to breathe nearly 14 billion years ago. Instead of the implied chaos of a Big Bang, it began as the first moment of a wonderfully fine-tuned, beautifully ordered, and ongoing big breath. Like a baby, it was born as simple as possible, to be able to grow and vitally to evolve. As its big breath continued, with space expanding from its minuscule birth and time flowing from past to present to future, its evolutionary journey from simplicity to complexity and ever greater levels of diversity and self-awareness led from hydrogen and helium to stars and galaxies, and eventually to planets and plants and people. The hydrogen in the water of our bodies and in the waters of our planetary home Gaia is only a few minutes younger than our universe. All else that makes up us and Gaia was created in stars billions of years ago. Our story is the story of our universe. Yet what really is the reality of our universe? And who really are we? Instead of a story of separation, scientific breakthroughs are now discovering and converging with indigenous and other wisdom teachings to reveal that our entire universe exists and evolves as a wholly unified entity, with everything interrelated and interdependent with everything else. Despite its appearance of solidity, though, physical reality, while real, is actually 99.999999999% no-thingness. And its material appearance isn't its deeper nature. Evidence at all scales is discovering that its energy and matter and space and time are its appearance, not its deeper nature. Showing that its appearance emerges from more fundamental and non-physical levels of cosmic intelligence and causation. Underlying causation and all-pervasive cosmic intelligence that, expressing itself as information, is the fundamental substance of our universe. Information, though, that isn't expressed as random data, but vitally as meaningful information that literally informs all we call reality. Meaningful information that's expressed in complementary ways as the energy and matter, space and time appearance of our universe. And as we are learning from the study of black holes, our entire universe is a vast cosmic hologram, its wholeness existing and evolving in the interdependent complexity of its informed and diverse parts. The alphabet of its informational language is the simplest possible, with only 2 letters, 1 and 0. Just as in our digitized technologies, they're combined meaningfully to inform and make up all we call reality, from hydrogen to stars to planets and plants and people. Like our digitized technologies and holograms, universal digitized information is pixelated. The scale of our universe's pixelation, though, is more than 1 trillion times smaller than our best high-definition technologies. As small as to the size of an atom is to our entire universe. Named after Max Planck, one of the greatest pioneers of quantum theory, from the minute pixelated Planck scale, the holographic appearance of our universe arises. The relational and dynamic informational patterns and processes of its wholeness are being discovered at all scales of existence, from atoms to planets to vast clusters of galaxies, to all of space and time. And through many fields of research, from physics, chemistry, biology, and planetary sciences, to studies of collective human behaviours, all with their complex appearances underpinned by so-named holotropic attractor patterns of information. Instead of a great object, our universe is being revealed as a great informational and finite thought in the infinite and eternal mind of the cosmos. We don't have mind and consciousness. We and the whole world are mind and consciousness. While we are each unique, we are inseparable from each other, our planetary home, and our entire universe. And we are each microcosmic co-creators of its magnificence and evolutionary impulse. We are family members of its vast communities of life. This is who we really are. Our unified, conscious, and essentially living universe not only meaningfully exists, but purposefully evolves. Its emergence not random, but continually and informationally guided. By around 5.5 billion years ago, interstellar clouds of molecular hydrogen, stardust, and ice had evolved to provide all the complex combinations of elements to birth planetary systems and enable biological life to emerge. The shockwaves from the explosion of a nearby star then caused such a cloud to gravitationally collapse, not in chaos, but into a protoplanetary disk, whose harmonically resonant orbits of its emerging planets surrounding a central protostar would further evolve to form our Sun and solar system. Vitally for us, Gaia's place in our planetary family is perfect. In the habitable zone, not too hot and not too cold, but just right. And as a water planet, to become a home for the evolution of biological organisms. Gaia's sentience is, however, embodied not only in her biological organisms, but also throughout her planetary rocks and minerals, waters and atmosphere that form an interdependent Gaiosphere that has nurtured the continuing emergence of complexity for over 4 billion years. From the very beginning, unchanged ever since, and the same throughout all Gaia's biosphere, the DNA and RNA genetic code has informationally enabled their intricate evolution from the simplest cells to the most complex ecosystems. Crucially, informational DNA is not passive, but responsive to signals, and so able to communicate and express its genes in different ways, with biological evolution driven not by random mutations, but by proactive and beneficial responses and adaptations. Meaningful informational processes guide emergence, and with collaborative relationships of organisms, ecosystems, and the entire Gaiosphere, enabling not only gradual change, but sometimes radical and rapid transformation. Yet we've forgotten that we're inseparable from each other, Gaia, and our whole universe. As a result, we've come to a tipping point as a species and as a planet. To evolve to greater complexity, organisms throughout Gaia's long story have learned to cooperate. To survive and thrive, we can't go on behaving as we have been. We can learn to come together to be a planetary species and stewards of our planetary home as Gaians. This is our moment of choice. Based on the evidence we now have, to remember that we're inseparable. And realise too that our own conscious evolution can play a vital role in Gaia's own evolutionary progress and purpose.
This is who we can remember we really are. This is who we can evolve to become.
Well, another opportunity for me to congratulate Jude on this film. What an amazing achievement. And I think it's only my microphone that's on, but I'm going to give you that round of applause. The sound of two hands clapping. I want to launch us into a discussion, and I'm sure we'll hear more from Jude as this session unfolds. But I want to start by explaining why I got involved, why Alef Trust got involved, and also it relates to why we have three young ladies sitting with Jessica in the room. I hope you can see that picture. So Jude had the idea of this film. Jude, as we've already heard, has written a great deal around this area: cosmology, the sense of meaning, purpose, the big breath which conveys so much, actually. And the point that really attracted me was that her intention was to make an educational film. And when we first spoke about this, she said that she was trying to relate. She would want the film to be directed towards teenagers. I think the ages you specifically mentioned at that point, like 13 and 14, I think it maybe has broadened since then, actually. But and everyone here in this room now knows the Alef Trust. I think everyone in this room is involved in our programs one way or another, or teaching, whatever it is. So you all know that we have our own mission. We are an educational organization, although we branch out in various ways to look at the ways in which principles of consciousness and spiritual or transpersonal psychology may be applied beneficially in our world. And goodness knows it's needed right now. So Jude came saying she wanted to get this message across, the message that we've all seen now in this film, get this message across to the teenage generation. And that resonated very much with myself. And as it happens, at that time, I had a 13-year-old daughter. She's now 14, and she's one of the people sitting in Jessica's room with her fellow schoolmates who are also 14 or 15 in that year group. When we launched this film, which was, I mean, some of you were there, I don't think everyone was there. As Jessica said earlier, we had this really quite amazing conference. I thought it was amazing, but then I was biased. But hopefully others thought it was amazing as well, back in September in Oxford. And on the platform with me, when we had that film launch, was not only Amelia, who's kind of in the target age group, but also a physics teacher. So his name was Keith. He's not here with us this evening. But again, that was deliberate because of the intention behind this film. In other words, we want to get these ideas across to the generation that's going to take such a responsibility in years to come. And obviously it's in the schools, not only in the schools, but hugely in the schools, that these ideas, these responsibilities are being shaped. So in that session, we had someone who had a lot of experience in teaching in different schools, this age group in the area of physics and mathematics, actually. So it's with that background, I just wanted to set that background to convey really why I, and I think others in the Alef Trust, really supported this endeavor and why we think it's important. So I think that kind of covers, I don't want to take all the time here, just to set the scene as to why I think it's important. That's not, I mean, it's also a great film. I mean, the way the graphics and the music, yes, the pearls of wisdom that come out of your mouth, Jude. What a commentary. So, yeah, a great achievement. Okay, so setting the scene, but also now opening up for discussion. And anyone who wants to chip in, then obviously you can unmute yourself or to put something in the chat window. I'm interested, obviously, and I'm sure Jude will be interested, in your reactions. What's right about the film? What perhaps is wrong about the film? How, this is crucial, and Jude's already alluded to this, how can we get it out there? You know, Jude said it's been translated into 17 languages. It's freely available on YouTube. I think it's been viewed 16,000, did you say? 16,000 times already. And that's without any promotional activity, really. So I think it's striking a chord. But again, in terms of the discussion that I'm opening up now, your responses, your reactions, but also your contributions. How can we put it out further? So let me pause. I'm tempted to kind of come to the younger generation immediately, but I'm worried that they might be nervous. So I'll hold back on that unless any of Abby, Lillian, and Amelia would like to chip in, but there's no pressure here. Okay, but anyone else? Your reactions?
We've got, yes, we have a response.
Oh,
I believe they have been talking amongst themselves and dreaming up a couple of sentences each.
great.
Go for it, girls.
So I just wanted to say, for me, this film's really important because it shows us, our generation, like how connected we all are. And not only how connected we all are, how much we all have a meaning, we all have a place, and we really all belong where we are.
Yeah, well said.
I mean, the film, like it, so in school we get taught sciences separately, so like we have chemistry, physics, and biology, but like the film kind of like brings them all together, and it just shows like they're not separate things, like it is just science, like it is just one thing together.
I'm going to agree with what you've just said, but I do also have a question. I'm just wondering why for all of the like words with like prefixes on them, so it'd be like remember or like, what was the other one?
Information.
Information.
And I was just wondering why you were doing that.
Great question. Yeah, great question, Abby.
Oh,
And Lillian. Sorry.
That's all right.
Great question. I love words. And often we use words without really thinking the deeper meaning of them. So what I talk about with our worldview is the lens through which we see the world, and is therefore it guides our decisions, our choices, our behaviors. And when we look to universal ancient wisdom teachings, they spoke of the world in the way that the film describes the world, of course, before science, but in every way, a lived experience of wholeness and of its unity in diversity. We were part of the web of life, with life being much more than biology, life being a living universe. And so I sometimes talk about that we've dismembered. We've literally taken apart our psyche. We've parked bits of us in various places and to some degree ignored them. So when I talk about remember, I'm not just talking about remembering here in our minds. I'm talking about remembering that sense, as Amelia, you just said, and Abby, of meaning and purpose and belonging. So that's what I mean by remember, which is hence the hyphen. In terms of in hyphen formation, somebody once said I'm obsessed by hyphens. Probably right, but it does help sometimes, because we talk about information without a hyphen, and that can mean pretty much anything. It can mean random data. It can mean information that of itself doesn't have any intrinsic meaning. So when I put the hyphen in, I'm really talking about meaningful information. And when I talk about that in terms of the film and the message, it's that our universe is innately meaningful. There is nothing in existence that doesn't have meaning, that isn't part of that meaning. So by putting the hyphen in, I'm really stressing, I'm really emphasizing that sense of meaning and that sense of purpose.
I'd like to add something as well. So Abby, Lillian, and Amelia, I know that you are studying a particular play for GCSE, An Inspector Calls by J.B. Priestley. It's a great play. So I don't know other people here now whether you know the play or not, but one of the crucial parts of that play is it relates very strongly to what Jude just said. So I'm not going to explain the whole thing to everyone, but you three will know what I'm talking about. So the way in which the main characters, that family, the way they construct their view of things changes from the beginning to the middle to the end. So let's just focus. I don't want to take too much time, but the end. What happens at the end? They're just being torn apart by the inspector. And then at the end, they start to think, oh, maybe it was all wrong. No, maybe this woman didn't die. Maybe the inspector isn't a real inspector. And as soon as they start to think like that, what J.B. Priestley conveys brilliantly is the way their whole worldview, the whole of the narrative that they tell themselves changes. It reforms, as it were, just like Jude's talking about the way in which things are informed. So I think that might be an example to help you grasp the point that that Jude was saying there. Okay.
And can I add another hyphen in that reform? If you say reform, you're basically changing the form. You're changing the form. So we talk about reforms, but when we reform something, especially when it's, you know, fundamental, we're transforming. We're literally changing the forms that we perceive.
I think, Jude, I want to buy you a T-shirt. It's going to be I heart hyphen.
I'd be honored. I'd be delighted.
Okay, I want to open this up. Please put anything you want in the chat window. Do open your microphones.
Paul's got his hand up, Les, I can see.
Oh, great.
Hello, guys. Greetings from a warm South Africa. I believe it's quite cold your side of the world for the guys here. Congratulations and thank you for including me. It's a beautiful project. If I look at the intention around teenagers, my Jack Russell agrees. If I look at teenagers, I'm wondering if I could ask the kids the layers of complexity and strange attractors in relationship on this net of information. I'm wondering how much of that they understood.
Paul, before I go to the young folks on this, just to say, I don't think I mentioned, we have put, because of that, with unfamiliar terms, Fran's going to put into the chat a link to the WholeWorld-View website. And we've got a section there on the film as part of the Unity of Reality. And what we've done is we've put there a glossary of terms as simply as we can. We've put the sort of questions that we're exploring in the focus groups, but maybe questions that folks might want to ask themselves or each other in whatever capacity they're viewing the film. We've also put the focus group videos. Ladies, you're all on the videos on the website as well and on YouTube, with some quotes that we're still sort of playing with, and also some experiential invitations, both in terms of text, but also in terms of an audio. So they're sort of like a gentle invitation to experience. We're going to be adding to that. And also on the website, there's a whole mass of resources on unitive science at different levels. So there's lots to explore there. So it's an invitation, but we've tried to sort of simplify as much as we can, but realizing that these are unfamiliar concepts. But I hope that the film will help make them familiar, because this is what we're rediscovering about the nature of reality. So over to...
So Jude, sorry, the film then is an opening to a further conversation that's happening.
Yes.
It's not a standalone. Okay.
No, it's very much opening to further with an educational wraparound for young people and their educators. But we say on the YouTube, it's for young people and truth seekers of all ages. But what we're doing is a lot more. We also want to we're hoping to have conversations with one of the global live streamers that will take the 14 minutes and hopefully we'll get it into a 6 or 8 hour episode major series on global. We did it in 17 languages. You saw all the translators at the end. So there's been watch parties and everywhere from South Africa to Latin America, to Bulgaria, to Turkey, to I've got a watch party with some Chinese folks tomorrow. So it's really an invitation to much more, moving forward.
Okay. Okay, I understand now. Thank you.
Over to the girls, because you're asking Abby and Lillian and Amelia, weren't you, Paul, what they wanted to say?
Well, I don't want to put them on the spot, unless they want to be on the spot. But it just occurred to me. I have my kids sitting around the dinner table with me, and their eyes glazed over. Would that be a correct? Their eyes glazed over a little bit, and so I was just wondering what the feeling was and what the context was.
Yeah.
They absolutely want to speak to that. So come on in, Abby.
So I thought the film was like good. It did teach a lot. It kind of taught about like what the world was like and how like everything's linked together. But one thing I will say is there's quite a lot of big words in it, so it kind of made it like a little bit confusing. Like we did get the concept, but we kind of had to like talk about it and see what the words meant.
I think there's a lot of big concepts, and obviously the educational wraparound will really help with that. But I feel like the message of the film is still really strong. So even if, like for me, some of the bigger concepts are harder to grasp, I can still pick up and take away the main message that the film leaves.
Yeah. I thought it was really good, but for the big words, it is. I think it's really good that you've got like a glossary in that. But every now and then, I feel like I could do with like drawing it, knowing what it's on about. What was the big word? What was the big?
Have a look, girls. Have a look. Go on to, when you have a chance, not now, obviously, but when you have a chance, I'd love it if you would go on to the WholeWorld-View website and look at the glossary and let me know if you feel that's helpful, or if you feel that, you know, we've missed any words, or we've not sort of clarified it as much as you'd like us to. I mean, to be fair, I always remember there's a quote by Einstein saying the universe is as simple as it can be, but no simpler. So try to simplify it, but these are unfamiliar. But go to the glossary. I'd love to get your reaction to that and add to that and change things in any way you think would be helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Addy?
Holotropic attractor pattern, I think, was one of those words.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Amelia said protoplanetary disk. They're both on the glossaries.
We did have some fun with protoplanetary disk when we first watched the film together.
We did.
We did,
Or proplid. I didn't say proplid in the film, but
I think there was another. So yeah, Eddie would come in, please.
Yeah, just very quickly. Well done, Jude and Les and everybody, girls. It's absolutely amazing. And I did have a small watch party last Monday with students from Switzerland, Spain, Italy, and Poland. I didn't know about the website at that time, so I didn't have the glossary. English is not their first language. They're slightly older, so they're between 15 and 18. So we watched the film together, and then they went into breakout rooms to discuss what they took from it. So one thing that was quite interesting was that most of them are quite stressed in their lives. They have exams every single day of the week, and they come out of it feeling quite uplifted and feeling that they were a small part of this incredible interconnected organism, and that they didn't need to worry so much about the small things. So that's just a very quick little bit of feedback there, but I'm intending on watching the film with maybe up to 800 or 900 young people over the next 6 or 7 months. And I'm in contact with a lot of teachers all over Europe, so I'll be sure to share it and bring you back feedback as well.
Adie, thank you very so much.
Oh,
bless you. Just to say, Polish, and you said Polish, we've got it in Polish on subtitles. If you go to the YouTube and go to their subtitles, you can look. And I think you said Swiss, so we've got French, we've got Polish, Spanish, we've got all of those. And just check out, literally from Arabic down to Ukrainian. So if that might help as well. They can go afterwards or before it and see it in their own languages easier. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. You're on mute, my dear.
Yeah, we work with lots of, besides those 4 nationalities, we work with lots. I'm just wondering if you have it in Hindi as well.
Do you know, I was asked about Bangladeshi and I was asked about Hindi. We haven't got it in Hindi, but what we were told mainly is that by having it in English subtitles, you know, that's sort of a second language in India, but a fairly well understood one. But we can add. So if you identify a translator, everybody did it for free. None of us took a penny. But if you identify someone who might like to offer a Hindi translation, I can send you the script. The other thing we've done is I've just created a PDF of the script, and we're just about to post that to the website as well. So if people want to take that and do their own language translation for it as well, that's certainly free to use as well. But thanks, Adi, and let us know. Please let me know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, there's a pause. I don't see anyone else coming in at the moment. Let me turn to Jude.
Barbara's got her hand up, Les.
Oh, I didn't see that. Sorry, Barbara, please.
Sorry, Les, just as you were speaking there. Yeah, first of all, you know, I just think this is amazing, and I saw it at Oxford as well, so it's so powerful. I'm not sure, you know, do you have like an objective of how you take it forward, and you know what would be, you know, an outcome that you would like to see?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm fair. I'm not prescriptive in that sense. It's a service, it's a gift to the world, which is why, you know, all the money we had on the grant is on the screen. And everybody has done such amazing support for us and moving it forward. What I'm seeing is it's part of it's a seed point. It's an invitation to a unitive reawakening in the world. So a lot of my work, we also showed it in New York in September, just before the United Nations Summit of the Future and Pact for the Future. And we had an ex-Under-Secretary General of the United Nations with us, who's want to take it everywhere. We have a senior ambassador from Bangladesh, Anwar Chowdhury, there. And Anwar said this has to be in every country of the world. So people are taking it, whether it's at government level, NGO level, UN level, individual level, educator level, whatever, and just sharing it, because it's that almost aha moment of remembering that we belong. So it's in many, many, many different ways, but also, you know, Chuck, who's on the call, and myself and Les and Jessica and many others are also now doing a linking up and lifting up in terms of unitive education. I'm working with leading economists in terms of unitive economics. I'm working with folks who are guiding leaders of major organizations in terms of this unitive perspective within themselves, and they're using the film as part of that. So people can use it in whatever way. We're already doing it, but we're aiming to sort of expand the educational wraparound. But that is not ours to do in any detail. It's to give the basics so that educators, whether they be in Japan or Brazil or Turkey or Ukraine, because the Ukrainian translator is a teacher in Kyiv. So this is for everyone to take forward. So we'll provide the basics, and we'll do the linking up and lifting up. And then there are many, many others who can take this forward. And as I say, the other thing is to hopefully have it be a sort of 6 to 8 hour global streamer. I'd love it to be Disney Plus, to take this out in the world. So we're in very, very early talks and contacts along that particular ongoing journey. So that's the sense of it. You know, as Les said, it's had 16,000 views with nothing, word of mouth, whisper. So the other thing is to please us to share it, to use it, to share it, to view it, as Adi is, with so many people. And if each and every one of the 800 to 900 folks that Adi is showing it to, show it to another 6 or 10, you know, the ripple effect is so incredible anyway. But as I say, we're doing lots of other things and welcoming everybody's involvement in sharing this as an invitation
Yeah.
to remember that we are,
Yeah. Remember.
we belong.
Just to say, I was so happy that you're speaking about breath. That breath is the thing that I work with most. And actually, I just came back from the UAE on Friday. I do a lot of breath work with people, and I'm really got a big desire to do something about the amount of waste, the plastic. It's horrible. I mean, I saw the film again this evening, and saw the waste, and thought that might be a good, to use the film as a good in to try and
We're using it, and just to say, Barbara, if you go onto the website, as Franz put up in the chat, go to that link, and one of the experiential invites is about the big breath and the big breath, breathing through our little breaths. And I've done the audio for it. So, bring it into your work, because it is exactly that. I mean, the word for breath, as you know, in Sanskrit is the word for spirit. So that's why, I work with that concept, and it speaks to people at such a profound and intimate level.
Yeah.
It brings that vastness into that intimate little breaths of the universe breathing through us in every moment.
Yeah. Actually, when I was in the UAE, the last couple of weeks, and I had this thought in my mind, I have to make a film to get people to be aware. Where does this plastic come from? And sorry, I actually used to work in the oil industry myself, but things changed. And where is it going? Just like something like this, and to have teenagers like that involved in getting this awareness out about. I actually did a thing in Johannesburg a couple of years ago called Me and My Environment, and about we've got this internal environment and we've got the environment, and how it's reciprocal, how we're polluting that is polluting us, and bringing awareness to so much of these.
Absolutely. There's so many ways we can do this. I don't know if you've heard of a film called Yogis in Ukraine. No. It's an extraordinary film. And it's about these hundreds of mainly women yoga teachers in Ukraine that are teaching more and more. And it's helping with their resilience. It's helping with their well-being. And they're going to the front line and helping the men and the soldiers with PTSD. And so I'm now in contact with the the Oscar-nominated director of that. And I want to, I'll share a Radical Guide to Reality with him and with the yogis.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. So, and it's in Ukrainian. We've got it in Ukrainian.
Amazing.
So there's so much we can all do, in any way.
We can all do something. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you.
I think, Paul, you put your hand up there, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it brings back memories in a way, this film. It's lovely. Because when I was 14, 15, I discovered the whole notion of worldviews in my classroom. And that was quite a few decades ago now. In a copy of The Ecologist magazine, which then put me onto ecology. And the question which I've got, which has kind of set my whole career through ecology, then anthropology, then psychotherapy, then spiritual direction, which, because it's a question, and environmental education, is what psychologically do you think, because this could be part of a follow-up even, what psychologically is required to change worldviews?
I think...
And to think of that as part of the ecosystem. I think of ecology as the unitive science par excellence. And it's always interesting, I find, all the way back to Tao of physics and Fritjof Capra, how the unitive science is always presented in terms of physics. But actually, in a kind of down-to-earth way, I think ecology, ecos means home. It could be a language. Well, this has been what a lot of my work has been, a language for communicating the unity and the interrelatedness of things. So it's kind of two questions then.
It's all that. I mean, the other basis of ecology is eco, which is home, which is also the basis of economy as
Yeah,
well.
that's
When it's
what I
dealt with in that.
said,
So
yeah.
I'm working with leading economists such as John Fullerton to actually bring a unity of economics. And so this film, of course, is part of all of that. But the other thing I would say, Paul, you're absolutely right. I mean, the psychology of it, the unity of science that we have on WholeWorld-View, which is all the sort of the references and all the unity of science is the science of love at its most fundamental. Because what we're talking about here is a universe that is not just living and evolving. But if we take the foundational description of love as relationship, then it's an interdependent, whole, unitive, interconnected, interrelated universe. So I'm working on something now called the science of unitive love, or soul, which brings that sort of universal science, that unitive science of our universe, into the psychology, into the way in which human beings experience relationship. So I'm working with people like David Cadman and others who are really, and Will Keeping and many others, who are really bringing that sort of unitive science, that universal wholeness into a human experience. So it's very much all that you're saying, and it's also experiential.
Yeah. And I understand everything you've been saying, and I think those things myself. My question, which is kind of key to the course I do at the Alef Trust, is what does it take for actually a person
to change a worldview?
To change
it's not
a
facts,
worldview.
in my experience, and in Donatella Meadows' work, it's not facts. It's
I agree, yeah.
Feelings. It's feelings. And so for me, one of the greatest things that came out of our focus group, our first focus group, and Chuck is going to be doing additional focus groups elsewhere in the States and different ranges of young people, is, and I'd like to ask Amelia and Abby and Lily know this, but the word that you really, all of you came back with, well, number of words: meaning, purpose, and belonging. And it was a feeling of it. I won't say anymore. It was more about the feeling than the knowing of it. It was a feeling of it. So, guys, would you like to add anything to that?
I've unmuted us. Anything you want to say?
I think just the fact that with a big bang, it doesn't seem ordered or like controlled, but with a big breath, there seems to be much more purpose to it. And I think that's what made us all feel like we belonged and like we had a meaning.
Yeah.
So I think that's what, yeah.
Anything else in the film that gave you that sense of connection, belonging? What was it that gave you that feeling?
I think it's just like saying that we're all made up of the same things. It sounded a lot more relaxed. I feel like whenever you watch anything else about the universe, it's like very like, this is this and this is this and this is this. And it's like very just all coming at you. But it was like relaxed and it like step by step. That's quite,
yeah. And in your day-to-day education, you all go to the same school, and we don't need to name the school, but I'm curious, how do you experience your education now? Do you have that sense when you're sitting in the different subjects that things interconnect and interrelate? Is it coming together?
Like sometimes, but like you've got to kind of be told, haven't you? Like, oh, this might come into like maths or whatever.
It's kept very separate. Like, I mean, even with science, the 3 sciences, there you've got different times. They're different classrooms, different books. All our work is kept separate. All the things we learn, the actual GCSEs, it's all physics, chemistry, biology. There's no science, and I feel like it will be really useful to us to see how they all link in together. Because I feel like that's what we need.
Yeah, because the most you get is like, oh yeah, this might link into your biology, and then they just keep teaching you whatever. Like, there's not really much of a real link then.
Is there anything that you think the school or the teachers could do to change that?
I don't really know.
But like maybe just like touch on the connections a bit more. So like, when you're doing a subject that connects to something, maybe speak about it more. Because I feel like it's not really mentioned, like how connected we are. Because it never really crossed my mind until we were like doing the focus group and watching the movie, like how one everything is.
Yeah.
Maybe you encourage your teachers to pull this out of YouTube.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
And guys, we are working with sort of what I call pioneer educators, like Richard Dunn of the Harmony Project UK, and people like Simon Sadinsky, who's the CEO of the King's Foundation. Don't know if you've heard about Dumfries House in Scotland, where they're teaching anything really in terms of its holism. So, for example, if you're being taught how to be a cabinet maker, woodworker, you're taught not just about how to make a chair, you're also taught to understand the different types of trees and the ecology of those, and going back to the soil and setting it in a much wider context. So we're working with a lot of teachers and educators of educators to really see how this could best be invited in to current curriculum, because teachers are, we all know, incredibly busy. So we don't want to try and impose something additional. This is more an invitation to be to help them in terms of supporting you guys, but not just in the UK. We're doing it in a number of countries. Chuck, did you want to comment on this at all? Because you're sort of taking this forward for us in the US.
I think Amelia wanted to come back in, so I unmuted us again. So if you want to follow up, go for
I
it.
think we just wanted to add something. Do you want to take it?
So what I was thinking is, like, we could host like a little assembly. Maybe like you could come in, we could show the video to people like our age in our year, and then we could ask questions about it, and it could like kind of help you see what you need to do, like add on a website, what's like what people our age are like wondering about, and write it in more detail.
Yeah, rather than just like us.
I'd be, guys, absolutely delighted to. I mean, just let Jessica know, and we'll do this together, and anytime I'll be delighted to.
Thank you.
Just briefly go back to that question about the worldview that Paul raised. And it is the question, isn't it, really? And I mean, there's a lot more to say about it, about the collective psyche, and and the role of feeling and the media and all these things. I just wanted to mention one thing. What comes to my mind in this context is plastic in the ocean. And so I'm thinking of David Attenborough. Yeah, so everyone. I mean, such an influence. Here was a documentary with a 90-something-year-old guy narrating, and it did change things. I mean, whether things have changed sufficiently, that's a whole nother question. But the awareness that we're destroying the oceans, that shifted. And the reason I'm saying that was just an example, but the reason I'm saying it is how important the role of film is in our day. And so that, comes back to the motivation, what Jude is trying to do and has done. And, how I felt that, yes, this is a great media for Alef Trust, on the back of what Jude's doing, to get involved, because it's right at the forefront of how things do change in our current society, the culture.
I agree. And just sorry, Les, just to add that, I'm also now part of a evolutionary media collaboratory that I've got a call on Friday about more and more content in this way. And as I say, we're in literally the most preliminary discussions, but potential for this to be a 6 or 8 hour, because when you look at what David's done, it's marvelous, but it takes a time to really tell that story. And 14 minutes is like, my goodness me. So, for us to be able to expand on that and deepen it, and deepen not just the what's on the film and express it, but what then? Because my passion is, okay, if we're all inseparable, which we are, and if this is the nature of reality, which it is, what next? What then? It goes back to, I think, what Paul and the girls and we're all saying. What then does that do in terms of how we choose, how we see the world, but how we choose, what is our behaviors? That for me is the key. And so I'd want these next steps and lots of other things that we don't have time to get into, but a lot of the other work I'm doing is what next, what then, in terms of unitive action, love in action in this regard.
I want to ask you one thing, Jude, and maybe bringing it together with this as well. And before I ask you, I'm going to relieve you of any need to be modest. You can just say it as it is. And the question is, what has been the reaction? You know, when you've showed this in various places, how have people reacted?
Extraordinary positively. I've had not a single negative reaction. Oh, sorry, Chuck, we did. On the YouTube, there was one out of 16,000 views, and all of the comments, there was one guy that basically said, bullshit. Sorry, girls. And I thought, you're not offering a constructive criticism here. You're not offering anything else. So I did say to Priya, delete it. So you won't see it on the comments. But that was one out of all of those. And, you know, people are crying because there is that sense of remembrance. There is that sense of, I know now I belong. So it's been incredible, really positive. And we feel we're only at the start of the journey, really. But what an amazing start.
Wonderful, wonderful. A little pause to see if anyone else wants to come in.
Just
Chuck
to
was going to
Chuck, yes.
what Jude said. I was able to be in New York for the screening in New York, which
Could you get a bit closer to your microphone?
Oh, the Zoom turns my mic down. Just a second.
Sorry.
How about now? How about now?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. So, yes, I was in New York for showing to 88 people there. I received a standing ovation from people who've been working in this area for 20, 30 years. One of the professors in Iowa, who is a co-researcher with Csikszentmihalyi, the flow researcher, teaches a course on human flourishing. When he saw the film, he said, I really want you to come and lead not only a class discussion, but a community discussion. And that's actually where I'm driving now to Iowa to do that discussion. And while I'm driving, I'm listening to John Fullerton, who Jude mentioned, his interview with Nate Higgins. And they were talking about, okay, environmentally, we're in overshoot. That's because of classical economics. That's because of a fundamental narrative of separation. And until we get past that narrative of separation and get to a unitive narrative, we're not going to make real progress.
That's great. And John and I are working very close, as Chuck knows, John and I are working very closely together. So there's some really, it really feels that this whole unitive perspective is getting some major traction now, which is something we can all support, I hope.
Okay. Okay, well, I guess I know that Jude's got to get off. She's got another meeting. Busy lady. And I'm not seeing any other. So I think it's time to bring it to a close. And again, congratulations on a great achievement. And may it grow. May it go from strength to strength. And thank you, everyone, for coming this evening.
Thank you, everyone. And you know, we do this together. None of us can do it on our own. We cannot, and nor should we, in my view. So this is an invitation to all of us to come together, to link up and lift up and just move forward. So thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Jude. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Thank you for being here.
Bye.